Everyone, welcome to the BetSperts Golf Rocket Mortgage Betting Preview. I'm Ryan Noonan, joined here by my friends. First, Andy Molitor, director of all things betting here at BetSperts. What's going on, buddy? It's a fresh hat.
Yeah, Luis sent this to me. Like, the shirts are comfy. The hats are good, too. It is 4-for-4 season. It's fantasy football's right around the corner. I'm the commissioner of the league. I haven't even set the goddamn draft order. I'm going to start getting texts here soon, but yeah, it is summer swing season. I'm going to concentrate on football a little for the next couple weeks and just let these tournaments kind of pass me by. Try not to lose too much money, and then we'll be excited for the playoffs again.
I think that's the boat that we're all in a little bit. We were waxing poetic about Chargers of the past before we got fired up here with our friend Geoff Fiber. Geoff, what's going on, buddy?
I'll tell you what. Not so much down, because I like the postmaster. As everyone's bitching about the postmasters, the season is still so fresh to me. I'm like, what are you guys complaining about? And I don't even mind change of pace events, as we've spoken about a lot, like team, like once in a while, match play, anything to change the vibe. I am here for. Now it's kind of just like exhaustion. Like, it's kind of fumes. The season is long. We're here. The events are hard to get up for. You look at these motley crew fields, and, we'll get into it, but, when's the last time someone over like 35 to 30 to 1 won a tournament? And now we essentially have like only 5 guys under 30 to 1. So, like, how do you even bet this thing? But yeah, and on to the note of like swing season, I'll tell you, I have a fetish when I get to do radio hits at like the FedEx Cup and they throw in like some Chargers questions. It's like literally a mix that I love, because I love the Northern Trust. I love coming out of the Northern Trust. East, like, meh, but so that's like my ultimate like swing. And then obviously when we're lucky enough to have Ryder Cup year, whatever, who knows what's going to come of that, or even in a few weeks. But yeah, I love that. Like a really good golf tournament with some like on the precipice of football. That is the best. That is when I am peaking, I feel. So my wind will come. I'll catch a sail. You might say I'm already on one right now, but
Getting there.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
I made a lot. You didn't see my betting card, Andy. It's big, but if you had to rate my confidence level, I'd put it at a 2.2.
I think that's the first time we ever did content together, Geoff. Is I think we did maybe it was a Masters. We did some sort of normal events along with like Chargers draft.
Well, that's because it was the COVID swing season. And I mean, now that you said it, my favorite day in my annals, like on my book, that doesn't exist. The day Bryson won the U.S. Open and Herbert came out of his egg simultaneously, even though the Chargers lost that game to the Chiefs, is literally like a heart emojis day in my life. That
was lung puncture gate, right? That was the
lung puncture gate.
God. The Chargers. God, we can't make this a Chargers podcast.
No, we're too early. It's not even August. I don't even allow myself to do it before August.
I'm gonna let you do one thing. Pick a golfer who's analogous to the Chargers' luck with team doctors over the last 20 years.
You don't have to make it team doctors. You just say with Chargers luck. I would have probably said
doctor stuff has been pretty wild.
Yeah,
between
totally
Dr.
agree.
Cow and the and then the Needlegate. But
sorry, which was the first one you mentioned?
Oh, Dr. Chow, way back in the day.
Oh, no, I'm very familiar with Dr. Chow. Although now that you mentioned Dr. Chow, we had a great hangout at Ladanian's Hall of Fame. We spilled the beans. I asked him if it's true that like if Ryan Leaf threw a chair at him. It's like, no, that never happened. We shared a beer, but Dr. Chow, so for all the hype he gets in this fantasy circles, there's a very shady past there. Chris Dealman almost died on an airplane, an all-pro guard.
You can go read. I don't want to make a joke about the phrase that got used a lot last year, but maybe go do your own research on Dr. Chow.
Yeah, just do your own.
That might be a fun little rabbit hole. And it's funny too. I got to thinking, you mentioned right off the top, you said we haven't had like a big number hit in a while. And it just goes to show that when you're doing your research and you're building your cards out, you can say like, hey, this is the kind of tournament that we can have high variance in, and I'm going to throw some bombs out. And I feel like we always throw some bombs out. But so many people harped on it last year, but like, oh man, Cam Champ and Matthew Wolf, and who's the third one?
Bryson won.
No, the 3M.
Michael Thompson.
Yeah, Michael Thompson. No wonder.
It doesn't help the argument. You should have just stopped the champ.
No. But I'm saying the 3 winners who have won it were all triple-digit odds, and people wanted to lean on that. Like it's probably not super predictive. It's 3 years, and I thought it was actually kind of funny that Chalk just ended up winning after. That's all I heard about all week was, oh man, is it just going to be another huge win? And I mean, Scott Piercy almost got us. He got us like 95% of the way there. That was a fun collapse for anyone who had any tickets that cashed on Tony, any which way but lose. But that was I will say my one 3M story I enjoyed was, you remember, anyone who watched last week, I was in the media tent. I had the credentials, and apparently like, if you have that, and a lot of these people in the tent were from all over. There was a guy that wrote for like a Japanese outlet. Like he was just dealing with Hideki pretty much. So all these people are from all over the place. They just assume if you have the media pass, you are too, and not from like an hour south of there. So I said something to like a security guard at one point, bitching about the weather, and he proceeded to like tell me all about Minnesota weather for like 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, this is what we have up here in July's like this. And I just politely listen, but that happened like 3 or 4 times. People just, yeah, Minnesota this time of year. He's like, welcome here, welcome to our weather. I'm like, yeah, buddy, I live here. I didn't want to be mean and tell anybody they were dumb. It was hot, it was windy, and Tony Finau is now a 3-time winner on tour.
Yeah, 3.
Twice
back to back. All right. How many not many of our favorite players have put up back-to-back wins. He's going to win again next year. I'm already going to just put that out there. His track record in non-majors in the last, almost since Mexico, has been unconscious. Like his stat line away from major championships has been beyond anything. Like having one win almost feels like it's like he's earned it. And certainly he's had some heartbreaking losses, so it's nice for him to get I don't want to say stress-free one. The only like commentary I have on the event, I had a Grillo ticket. It would have been nice for it not to be a bomb, not to be chalk, just somewhere in a nice hittable high 5 range. Was that like Piercy was doing everything, like making every time you thought like Grillo could get a stroke or guys would get a stroke, Piercy was making that par or matching a stupid birdie on the par 5. Like really annoying. And then you get to 12 and he makes that huge birdie or another one or a hole that other guys just didn't get. And he's up so much where it's like, it's time to go in the pool, girls. Like, let's go. Everyone's dead. And for a tournament that was over for so long, it got like tight again. And you're like, oh, this is going to be great. But then it literally was only tight for like 7 minutes because it got really close. And then Finau proceeded to just keep making birdies and Grillo makes a bogey. And there was really like 8 minutes of, oh my God, this is going to be fun. And Finau just took it by the balls. So, yeah, great. I don't know. Minnesota was fun again. The water balls, that's something to, I think, be proud of, like, or excited about. It makes the tournament and its variance really exciting. And I'm not betting any chalk this week, at least the mega, but there's a couple guys up there I actually expect to play fantastic and fear greatly.
And you're right. The drama was like one hole, or like a 2-hole stretch was just such a hard swing. It's essentially like Piercy just handed his lead to Finau, like, hey, you take my spot. I have this multiple stroke lead. You can just have it. It's like they just switched spots real quick, and there wasn't really 3 or 4 guys are in contention now, and we have some drama. Although, like in classic Tony fashion, I mean, he hit the backboard on 17, like 30 feet off the. You know how far that ball goes if that grandstand isn't there? That's rolling under the 18th fairway. Like, he hit that ball so far past that green. It's not a short hole.
Did you guys see the presser after where he was, celebrating the win? It was not great it was fuel for Tony detractors, because he talked about how all of a sudden he's been chasing, I felt like I was down 5 all day. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, you know what? I actually got really nervous when I saw what happened to Piercy. And all of a sudden I'm standing on 17 with a lead, and it was a different amount of pressure. And it's like, that's very human of you and very relatable and very honest, but not like super great to hear that. Like,
again,
you're at 7, you're on the 3, it's 3M. This is not, I don't know. It's very relatable. And I like that about Tony. I think that's kind of why he's endearing, but I want you to be able to, like, I don't know, mask that at the 3M and just kind of get home how you need to be continuing to play. But, he went in the water in 18, played the backboard on 17, but he had built enough of a lead, and he got home. But it wasn't great.
I would just say Tony is so, like, is such a brand new place for him. Sure. And as a Tony fan, I'd just be like, I've been an apologist for him. It's nice to see him just stack wins, despite people will be like, yeah, he had to outduel Grillo and Piercy. That just is what it is. It's just a win. And for all the close Tony calls, there was never a Tony up like late and a gag. There was never like a Tony doing what Berger did or something at actually did get got by Xander in China once, I think, at the HSBC up quite a bit, where I went to bed thinking, oh, Tony's actually going to end it, and he didn't. But it's like almost newfound air for him to be in this stress-free situation. Like, even Northern Trust last year's battling it out until like the very end. So I don't know. I could hope he won, and he should have prayer. He had the whole family there, and that kid, he's been waiting forever to be able to like run on a green. And because Tony wasn't even in the 18th group, he couldn't. But I remember like the close-ups last so many of the close calls. Because that kid literally spent his whole life watching other kids of good players get a run on the green and get a trophy with their dad. And he's like now 10 years old and he never got to do it. It was like, so he must have been a clusterfuck too.
For sure.
The presser too, like, they weren't even near I guess the clubhouse was kind of by there, but I love the presser was just over by the bounce houses, because Tony has like 9 kids, and I'm sure that some of the younger ones just didn't give a shit. Like,
Rivers,
there's like 3 bounce houses by the clubhouse, Dad. Like,
Geoff has a type.
We could go after the round. He can go after the round. So like, he's doing an interview in front of these inflatables. He said that he can count on his one hand how many rounds that his entire family has missed this year. So apparently the whole crew is there. Yeah, every round, every week. So that's impressive too.
Well, I bet especially in summer. And then I had a thought where maybe he'd withdraw this week, because listening to the radio call last week, they're kind of making mention, or at least on the weekend, because he was committed to this week and he is still playing.
Yeah.
But it's like he was right on that FedEx Cup 30 bubble, which, to guys at 125 and those numbers, it's important. But to players of a certain caliber, their eyes are hyper hawking that 30 number, because that has its own hyper relevance to them. And I thought, maybe after catching last week right into the FedEx Cup, like, why play Detroit? But I like when guys are on heaters and they're like, winning's hard. I'm hot. You look at his record. If anything, he should play the Wyndham too. Just the way he's literally been ball striking at these events that can call on, just sticking it. And he's not going to make every putt, but he's going to overwhelm the green with opportunities sometimes that he only needs a small fraction of them to go in.
Well, that's going to be the key this week as well.
Kind of firing. I was surprised at how few withdrawals we've had, turning the leaf over to the Detroit. Because that, like, Mr.
Who else would you have thought would withdraw?
Well, just
Grillo withdrew.
Grillo made
he's nabbed a couple second places, and he's
I thought Fino would pull out, and then I mean, the fact that Bolton was on like number 11 or 12 towards the end of before the 3M
Guys
started.
who were being added off the withdrawals were withdrawing themselves. So some of the withdrawals were actually worth 2 tweets.
Yeah. The guy's he's in on his own number and he's out.
Yeah. He's added. Oh, he's out. So every withdrawal was including like it was 2 tweets for 1 change up. But yeah, I guess. But all these guys, they're desperate. They want the positioning. The road kind of ends, next week and beyond. I guess for a bit. Why not play? We've been playing all summer.
Grillo moved like 40 spots. Like Grillo is a. We'll start talking more about FedEx spots, but Grillo's up around 50 now. He's not, guaranteed to make it into that second week of the playoffs, but
yeah, he is
being 50.
Yeah, he is
quite. You think so? I mean,
yeah, I don't think he has to touch. He's not going to drop 20 spots.
It's a lot.
It's tight though. The points from like 50 to 70. There's not a lot. Like the 71st has 569 and he has 691. So I mean,
I haven't looked at it that close, but like I would say he could sit out the first FedEx event at 50 and still stay inside the top 70. But you're right. I guess if he stood out this weekend, Wyndham, he would put himself in a strange spot. But good for him. I don't know. I had the courage to bet him. Like it's annoying when I'm a Finau big fan, so I'm happy to like be able to take a win to other future arguments, and even a few. Honestly, like people were ready to like start kicking him off like U.S. teams. So like I like how this just sort of that just almost settles that all down unless we're a full year from now almost and there's no win, because the teammates love him so much that he'll like win any arguments if it's like put to a.
He's the only guy that was worth his weight in Paris, and he played fairly well up in Wisconsin as well. So I know we're talking President's Cup, but like he's done well in these formats before, so he should. Yeah,
and he's like all around good guy. Everyone likes him. Like if it's brought to the council, like you'd have to be one hell of a player to outduel Tony Finau at like the captain's council vote, like for final spots. I'd assume too. I don't know. I feel like I'm annoying and just shading words. We got 2 tournaments. Maybe we should jump into this pool. I'll start it. I am
Minnesota's. Minnesota had the water, and so the Rocket Mortgage here in Detroit feels similar, but without the threat of water. It is a very straightforward. We've seen bomb and gouge win. We've seen straight and basically hot putters is really the format here. Because we've seen, the Kisners of the world, Nate Lashley. We've seen those guys perform well here. But the field is better than what we had last week, where we just had kind of the top 3 guys. We talked about that. Like Hideki kind of ejected early, but then we saw Finau and Sanjay finish 1-2, actually, once the dust settled on Sunday. But top of the board is interesting. Finau obviously back. Cantley is here as well. We have the young Wake Forest duo that we love to hammer on. Now that we are basically at or short of 20 for both of those guys. Max Homa is the other guy here that is kind of in that below 30 tier. Andy, is there anything that is of interest to you here at the very top of the board for Detroit?
Like I can't bet Cantley at that price, despite like you just said it. The 2 chalk players played well, but it was a different kind of tournament. There is a lot of blow up holes, especially, and the fun part is the last hole is a blow up hole. Yeah. Like that, if it would have been some drama, and we've seen that. Didn't even get the water last year with Champ. He just went off into the woods for some reason. But there aren't these blow-up holes in Detroit. It just turned into like, hey, is your ball striking good enough? Is your short irons going to put you in a spot to score? And then can you putt? And these greens are not easy. They haven't given up like, oh, everyone's just, draining 30-footers that are nothing's breaking. They're hitting it from the far end of the green and damn near sinking these. Like it is tougher to putt here. But there will be some guys who putt well, and those guys will be at the top of the leaderboard. It is a filthy putting contest, and it made it hard for me to really reckon with betting anybody super short. I know, like, especially like Finau, I don't know where his motivation is coming off a win and having to play this one, especially where he sits now in the FedEx. Like he's in the top 20. He's sitting really pretty. Cantley obviously sitting really pretty, but the price sucks. And then Zal, just Zal and Young and some of the other guys for their price. I didn't love everything about them. Ended up betting Homa at 25. I thought he should have been sub 20. Like, I really thought Max Homa's price should have been where like Zalatoris and Cam Young's was, and they should be. Granted, like Zalatoris probably turns out to be the better golfer long term, but just give me a guy who's won, who's really level headed. Like Homa just seems down to earth. He doesn't, you know, the Tony interview you spoke about, like Homa just goes out there and like, I don't know, there it is very mental. And after his last win, it did feel like, man, this is a guy who's just, he knows he's playing well. He's not getting in his own head about this. And I think he's going to place well. I think he's going to make a shitload of money later this month at these playoffs. I think he's going to place well in all of those as well. So really the only thing, honestly, probably short of 50 that I bet. I have one. I guess I have one more that's a little below 50, but yeah, home at 25 was a bet for me. I think that should be 18.
Communal bet.
Hat trick.
We're all on it. Hat trick. Oh, he's dead. He's dead meat. Sorry, Max.
No, I'm new to the Homa betting, despite being like the big Homa fan here. Everything Andy said. Not like good players are winning events. I want to at least invest in a good player. I think there is at least a fair number. Andy can make a case that it's more than fair. And for this like Otto Zalatoris vibe I was on for a bit, it's just kind of over. Major season, like the end of major season kind of felt like a season finale in that respect for me. And if we get to the FedEx Cup and it's full field and he's 28-30-1, I'll probably get in there. But for the moment, that'll sound silly. The Zalatoris Cam Young, for as great as they are, their win equity is, I guess they contend so much. I don't want to pick fun of win equity because that would be silly because I'll take their contention rate, much like Finau. Like you just contend. Xander, Matt Fitzpatrick, you just contend and trust me, you're going to freaking win. Like it's just a simple thing. You get enough rolls of the dice, with only 6 pieces on the dice, you're going to get a piece of the pie. I love Cantley this week, but it's not a bettable situation for me. But I think like a lot of these other great players, he's playing well. He should feel good. He's really due for a win. It's so strange. He has the team win, but his placing but I'm just not betting it. So Homa's the option for me. And I am expecting a total like birdie brigade in a way last week couldn't. You got in trouble last week. Not only do we have the water balls, but you can't just attack the green. That rough was thick. If you were off on about 14 of the 18 holes, like the whole question of do I want to take on even playing to the green? You see a lot of guys having to lay up in front of the hazards, knowing it just wasn't worth it. This is just a classical design to finish the Homa thing. Riviera, Quayle, Donald Ross. He's just clearly also, despite all the compliments Andy laid on him, he's shown an affinity to just really like and play well at these classically designed golf courses. So, Homa Hattie.
Yeah, we also mentioned you gotta also make putts here. He's been terrific, especially in that like 5 to 10 range bucket. And then the short irons, because you're able to pull driver and leave yourself with a lot of stuff in that like 75 to 150 proximity bucket. And he's been terrific there. That's actually one of the things that for Cantley has actually been struggling a little bit. Again, it's all relative and you can, mess around with sample sizes and that could be a little bit noisy, but that would be one thing that would give me pause, along with obviously the number being super short on the board. So
and putting, so many people, if you take in a lot of this golf betting, golf DFS media, people say, "Oh, putting isn't sticky. Putting isn't predictable. Putting shouldn't be part of your models. Putting is, it should be tossed out for the most part." Probably true in a lot of cases. It isn't predictable. It's very hard, but in cases like this, you do need to find golfers who have done it. And granted, somebody can do it for the very first time, but I need guys who have had outlier putting rounds who can, put it together. There are some guys just that's not a thing they do. they'll have decent rounds or shitty rounds. Max gained like 7 on the greens when he won Wells Fargo. He was actually kind of shitty around the green. At the Memorial, he gained a bunch, where he top 10 there. He has had some of these. I think probably if you go back to his win at Fortinet, what was it, CJ? But the swing season is just gone. For I think it was Fortinet. I'm sure if you look back at that, he gained a bunch too. But I did find a couple rounds looking at him, and I looked for this when I looked for people at the Rocket. Like, you have to be a guy who's had like a 5+ putting tournament. And
I don't want to brag, but I actually have Max Homa this week at 347 to 1.
Oh boy!
What did you
parlayed with Bryson?
Yeah, Bet365 has a double boosted from to 347 to 1. But I just assume it's Max Homa 347 to 1 because I've already handed Bryson Live Bedminster. So Max Homa 347 to 1. I might even, as I joked with Mayo, parlay Bryson with the Chargers win the Super Bowl just to juice that up, because anything you want, just juice it up 10%. On a different, that was just a joke, but I am hyper confident in Bryson, and I couldn't resist that double because of how confident I am in Bryson this week, which I've bet a stupid amount on. Staying light in Detroit, hoping to get lucky. Really put the chips in on Live, hoping to catch a whale, I guess.
Well, you didn't stay that light as far as the number of bets that you made, because you fired down the board at some bombs, but we'll get into the mid-range. Andy, you mentioned, because I don't have anyone besides Homa at 25 that's short of 55. You said you had another there. I know Geoff has some there as well. Who else have you fired there short of 50, Andy?
Still shopping on this one, because I think I can find better than, so it looks like I have a 41, but Webb Simpson actually isn't someone I've bet yet, but he's on the card kind of. I haven't been able to.
50
it's been a long time. Like he's had top 10s. His form kind of sucks right now. That's maybe going to keep me away. He's had some bad putting performances, and you got to go back a ways to find it. Like when I think it was the Tournament of Champions or the Sony. But a couple of years ago, this guy was doing it all the time with the putter. Like, he'd have these rounds like this. So Webb Simpson is a look, but I'm still 50-50 if that one's actually going on the card. I would like it a lot better if it said 50.
50.
Yeah. I'm out on Webb, but you're the third person now. Mayo seems to be very in on Webb. Ryan had mentioned to me that Ron over at BetSperts is in on Webb. And if you want to make the case, like, I'm going to bet Webb this week and hope he catches the win before people are touting him next week at Wyndham, where he'll be like the famous Webb baby thing, daughter, yada, yada, yada. I'm staring at Webb and Scott, and I can't pull the trigger on either. I lean Scott. I told Ryan even yesterday, I told my odds checker video, I thought I'd bet Scott, and when it was time to make the bets, I just couldn't pull the trigger. But both those veterans right there at 40, I stared at for a bit. I actually trust Scott more. That's probably more of a current form thing, and he can play these courses pretty well. He's going to miss putts. They're going to be on TV. They're going to annoy you. But at courses like this, he can also overwhelm that 12-foot circle as well. So just abundance of opportunity, I expect. He'll be the guy, the peace of mind that won't be kind on Sunday night if he wins. But I like Scott. I like Simpson. Even right there, there's 45s on Denny, who off a T10 in a major, off like a strong season, off great results at Donald Ross courses historically. You think like the confidence, the course type, the putting thing, you wish there was a number. You got to pay for Denny. But yeah, that's another guy I was thinking of in front of 50, and I passed them all.
I had him circled as well. There's some things about his game that didn't quite jive for me here. And then again, I could have overlooked those if Denny was 70-1, even maybe 60-1. But Denny at 40 is a bridge too far for me. I did the same thing with Scott. Scott met some other criteria. He was a short list guy too. I know obviously different kinds of greens, different time of the year, but the Genesis and the Arnold Palmer, he was a guy who, just like I talked about, like, oh my God, we're doing outlier putting performances. You can, and you
He's
have
been way better than people.
He's had those weekends where it's like this guy's just draining everything, and that's what you need is someone who has the capability to win a putting contest. So he's there, but again, the price at 35 is a bit out of where I would want to have him for a guy that I have a lot lower on, just basically finding his way to the green compared to some of the people here. So
it's weird that he's here
out on Scott.
It's like, because this is you look at what he's played this year.
He played Wyndham last year though.
Okay.
And he played as someone who's like kind of bullish on Scott coming into the year. He didn't have that like peak moment, but I think from a consistency level, he was way better than a lot of his like peers from like in that veteran bubble. I think he was far more consistent. And he knows his schedule, but he played some really muck events in like the fall last year that shocked me also, Ryan. And he probably has to get to the quota. He probably has to get to the required, I think, number. And for Adam Scott, like a couple other players, feels like a couple more nibbles where he's going to have his cake and eat it too, friends.
Shocked that he wasn't on the first bus to eat the cake. To be honest,
you know what it is? I could be so silly. I've brought it up a few times. Andy, you guys are perfect people to have this question to. Not to say it's a bet you like run to make, but I swear those guys, they committed. They committed to Trevor Immelman and in a way that they weren't going to get bought off of it. And it seemed like that Liv was like ready to reset with them as a couple he's not the whale so much as Cam or Hideki. Feels like they will be featured whales, but I know you can mock it with making a comment about draft odds and how dominant you guys have been about really putting it in the book's ass with drafts. Since Liv started, the President's Cup number didn't move. I looked at it on the first wave because like Louis left and
answer,
and you're just like, listen. There's just no Europe. Europe. They had fun in Australia and they made it close. There's just no way they could compete losing those guys. The line didn't move from losing Louis and Answer, and it hasn't budged on the extremely confident rumors of Cam Smith and Hideki. And no one's running to bet a minus 350. I get it, but we know how these things work. When things are like sure things, minus 350. Is a number people will bet on, and as it's even coming closer, and the book's not moving it with the heavy Cam Smith Hideki rumors. You could even throw the Adam Scott never-ending rumors. I'm convinced that they're all playing through it, and I know we've expected it, but I don't know. I mean, Andy, your guys' thoughts? Maybe it's something they don't care to get beaten on, but I don't know. They haven't moved it on a rumor, let alone Louis and Answer leaving, who are players that team roster cannot afford to have lost.
There's this weird scarlet letter that gets thrown on these players who take the money. That's like, they're shitty people because like Greg Norman's a shitty person and Phil, as it turned out to be a shitty person. And I mean, there's a couple people over at Liv who are probably shitty people. But it doesn't make these people bad people. And you can't just say that that's the decision making about everything in their life. Like, they took the money. That means they have basically said, fuck everyone else. I hate everybody else. I don't give about, shit about anything but me. I think there are people who are like, I'm going to take this money because it's just an obscene amount and I can't say no. But at the same time, I made a promise to play in the President's Cup. And that matters to me too. Like, I don't see there's so many people that just feel like they can't have both of those. Like you say, cake and eat it too. It's not cake and eat it too. Maybe it's more of, hey, I'm not completely.
I'm finishing one commitment and starting my other.
I made a commitment to that. The Liv is, that money is. They've looked at the books, but like, oh, you guys have $70 trillion bajillion dollars. Like that money's still going to be there come Thanksgiving. So no, I fully agree.
And Cam Smith and Decky are guys.
That's how it's going to happen with the president.
And Cam Smith are Decky and guys, and I guess Adam Scott. I guess Scott. They want all Masters champions. Like they want to put it to the. If you got a green jacket, it's almost like your auto, regardless of where you are in your career.
Weir's about to get the bag.
Danny Willett's talking to his.
And hey, Willett. There were reports because Willett played a practice round at the Open with like a full live crew. And that's what like, oh, but they're just like green jacket hoarding, where they're like going to own the champions pictures. Like you could do whatever you want. You can kick a set of other things, but Masters are actually going to be live celebrations in some respects. But yeah, and Cam Smith and Hideki are so secure that they're not worried that, oh, if we don't take this right away, some other player is going to get our 100 million. Like Hideki will own them the Asian market. Cam Smith at this moment, like they are evergreen. They have no risk in by long gaming. I mean, literally like 3-month gaming from a few weeks ago. So yeah. And again, from the odds, I look at it, not to say I'm running to bet it ever, not to say I expect USA to lose on home turf with the roster they'd have regardless, but I know how these markets work. They move on rumors, like they move on speculation, like with everything. And they haven't. So they must feel like those guys are playing and they don't need to reset a number. And it would be drastic if Hideki.
Also, I don't think the liquidity of presidents.
Yeah, they're not taking huge action on minus 350 bets.
I don't think it matters what the price is. I think it's just the fact that it's a team.
Yeah, you're right. You're right too. You're right too.
No one gives a shit about the President's Cup.
You could argue the 350 is free money. You could argue the roster, even with Cam and Hideki. Like you could argue betting US is still free money in that event. And if you could wait like 6 weeks, you're gonna make 35% money. I don't know. Like Stockbrain might like it. I know there's risk in everything, but I'm telling you, that team's not beating.
I get your point though, because if it even with a little bit of action, if you're pulling Cam Smith and Decky off that team, that's probably 5. It's probably 5 1/4.
More than 5.
Yeah,
it'd probably go to more than 5 because you're almost expecting now Cam Smith to play like the John Rahmy role of like getting 4 points, and then maybe you have a semblance of a chance because one guy gets 4. And then you steal some other things. Yeah, I don't know. I could go to say I probably have the next number up because we all skip these guys or thinking about them in front of the 40s. He has sucked me dry a lot this year. I've been fooled a lot. Why not get fooled 1 or 2 more times? Maverick McNeely, come on down. We've seen odds all over the place this week, so we can talk about this one. I've seen it as low as 33. I'm bringing in a 50. I don't know. The 9, you remove the 9, and it's another T25, and we're like more like Matt McNeely. I know it was a 9 without the water, as Andy mentioned, so maybe we shouldn't just remove it. But when you want to bet a guy, you've got to mentally make a case, and the case that I am is you remove the 9, it's another T25 that's probably getting glad-handed in the golf betting sphere this week, instead of just being this middling entity. Also want to mention, deeply thought about Sahith. Haven't really mentioned him at all in anything I have done, but took a long time for me to actually cross it off. And I watched his number drop in some places from a 50 to a 40. Does feel like he could overwhelm a pin this week also, but I'll have to miss it and be happy for him, I think.
I bet him last week too, and every week this happens to me where, again, teamed up on a bigger one and done, and it's basically a 3-horse race, which it could end up being more horses with some big money down the stretch, but the 2 other horses had 2 of my outrights. So I'm like, well, I've got to cheer against 2 of my own guys already. And Sahith was somebody I liked last week, not as much this week. I get it with McNeely. He putted his ass off at the John Deere. He's a good enough player. He played 71 holes of pretty good golf. It was still like couldn't get out of a bunker for 3 shots. And if you do that on a hole and then when you finally do, you find yourself in some deep rough. And that's something to talk about here at Detroit too. This is like US Open level rough. It's not as easy to find, but there's like 4-inch plus rough on this course. You can get yourself in trouble, but again, it's so straightforward that if you're not an absolute jackwagon off the tee, it's not really going to come into play a ton.
And even if you do, though, it's like a 75-yard chip, right? That's why we've seen.
That's the thing.
Risk reward, yeah. So you chip it on for 28 feet.
Yeah, you're just mad that you weren't able to birdie that hole. Is all.
Yeah, but the times you're able to execute that drive, you're going to get a birdie opportunity that's very short. And when you're not able to execute it, you're going to get like a 28-footer. And if you're able to even hit one or two of the 20-footers to go with the ones you put tight. Like I see it. He's incredibly popular. He might be the most picked player, I think, Cam Champ this week, at least in maybe some of the early stuff I have seen. I know there are people that, God bless those people that amalgamate like people's Twitter posts to say these are the and read the articles to say these are who people are betting. I don't know. I'm not there. Like I said, my confidence level isn't high in anything, but I also gave Grillo last week with a confidence level of 1 and kind of showed up. I think I could be done until like just in front of 100 here, but let's keep pounding.
Yeah, I get some others in this.
I know you do. Yeah.
Yeah, in this 50s to.
There's a reunion happening, Andy. Between Ryan and a friend.
It's been 51 weeks.
Yeah, they broke up for a bit.
The 72nd hole at the Wyndham with Russell Henley and his shitting down his leg. It was really painful. He was in cruise control, and I haven't bet him since. We're going back to the well on big game Russ here this week, 55 on DraftKings. Ball striking, short wedges, confined fairways. Russell Henley is a guy that is.
I bet him.
He often did you nice. See, he's often going to profile well in
55 at BetUS. I found this morning early when I was hunting around. Yeah, he graded out, and I hate him because I've bet him a few times, and it hasn't really worked out all that well. But yeah, everything I put together for this tournament, he graded out so well. It's like, and again, it's easy to find greens and fairways here, but I'll still take guys who do it well. And his proximity's been great. His form is good enough to put him in a decent spot for me. And then I have his fit fairly high too. Like everything, he wasn't like top of anything for me, but he's top 20 across everything I looked at. Like this motherfucker's coming on my card. So 55-1 for sure.
Yep.
Thinking about it, maybe we got to make it another party. He's still swimming around. Anything north of 50 seems fair. Is one of the first. I didn't bet it. It was one of the first names that actually like came off the board as something I could do. So maybe it'd be deep regret. I could be talked into anything. I don't know. I got five bets. I think 4 bets above 100. So it's a lot of names.
Another guy that profiles very similar there. Well, actually, we don't give a lot of credit for these alt events because we're focused on, well, first of all, they're weak fields. We're clearly focused on something else that week. And then if you look at what Mark Hubbard's done the last couple of times out, solo third at Barbasol, fourth at the Barracuda, fits a lot of the things that we want here this week too. Really good baseline putter, good from the proximity ranges that I think matter. He gives up a ton of distance, but like in the Kevin Kisner builds, I think you can get there in Hubbard. I took Hubbard at 60. I like that one quite a bit. It feels like he should be further down the board from like name value, but again, the form is pretty nice and he fits.
He played well at the Barracuda. Yeah. And I have a 60 that I haven't bet yet. You may have talked me into it. What was there a reason? That's where the one thing I couldn't dig out was there a reason on the withdrawal last week? I didn't find anything injury-wise. I don't know if it was just tired and he knew he was going to play Detroit rather.
Yeah, probably. I haven't
think
seen
that
anything.
if he's fine, if I can't find that he actually had some sort of nagging injury or some reason, fatigue or otherwise, I'm going to bet him at 60. He graded out very well for me as well.
Yeah, very, Nice profile and good form. So we got to ride with that. If someone's going to bomb and gouge his place, I like how Taylor Pendrith's been playing. Again,
oh, is this another hat trick?
Yeah. You got Pendrith?
Pendrith. I'm keen on form. I'm not so keen on fit here.
Agreed.
He can
bomb but in a shit show, I was like, giddy up. Let's give her.
Pretty good from the proximity ranges. Shorter, like again, when you think about like the really close proximity ranges, which I think would matter more for him than obviously like the 125 to 150 bucket, because we're expecting him to bomb it. It's been pretty darn good. Like top 30 in this field, in both 75 to 100 and 100 to 25. So, and can make putts. He's I got him top 20 in the 10 to 15 range over the last 36 rounds, and that's again over a pretty large sample because he missed a ton of time, but. Fitting the bomb and gouge. I want to mix it up. I want some of the guys like Hubbard, some guys like Pendrith, and then some other long shots that we have that I think are interesting too. So I want to kind of throw it all across the board here this week because we've seen kind of
you're pretty much doing my card for me as you go. You've named Henley and Hubbard. I already did Homa, and then Webb Simpson. I said I crossed off. Really, I don't have a bomb outside of one guy. The last two guys that I did add, actually, you know what? I do have a bomb. Never mind. He was 66 at $1, and that was ridiculous. But Brendan Steele is my last reasonable bet. He's a guy I can't quit for some reason. So 66 on him. I played it. I don't have a lot to say about Brendan Steele that we haven't said every single week, but he's another one too. It's just like, hey, are you a good ball striker who's going to like end up with a lot of opportunities, and you probably fit this course, and your short irons are good enough, and you're 66 to 1. Like, I think you should be 45. So Brendan Steele is my last reasonable bet.
I like Steele. I couldn't get there because I just don't. I mean, we only need this spike putting week, right? I just don't know that he has it. It's so bad. Having bet him last week and watching some of the early stuff on Thursday where he just continued to miss, inside 5 feet, it was painful because obviously I saw that number and I'm like, I took him at half the number last week. Like I should, just from process, I should go back to Brandon Steele.
He lost so many strokes at Travelers and 3M. Arnold Palmer, he lost 5.5. Genesis, he lost so much. Like you're wrong, Ryan. He does have spike putting weeks. They're just spikes to the low. Like he has the opposite. The last time he truly had a spike putting week was like it looks like the PGA Championship 2 years ago. He had a couple that year, the Honda and the Players, and the best part was he gained 4 strokes at the PGA that week, finished 77th. The putting spiked while everything else went to shit. So this one was hard to grasp, but I did bet it.
Geoff, you got bombs. We're kind of into that, I think, 100 maybe beyond range. If you want to hit us, I know you have I think a 5-pack of bombs this week.
Yeah, I got Goddard, pulled the 100, saw that as low as 60. Again, a shit show. I'll play the ceiling while I think there's life for the Scotts, the Webbs, the Henleys. Me in these events, I love I don't want to say unknown with Goddard, but the unknown of playing really, really well and bringing it home. Chess and Hadley, I've bet the stats. I don't know, there's just some consistency, but maybe even with less blow up hole potential, we'll get there with Chess and have made that bet. Lee Hodges 200 to 1. I have made that bet. I'm not finished. I sent you Bo Hostler. I don't know, putting contest. I'm gonna go to my boy Bo. I think I got to pull a 180 on Bo. So some really just muck firecrackers I've thrown out. I think there's one more. I did send you my list, Ryan. No, Hadley. Yeah, Nick Hardy 120 over at Bet365. Like you said, process. I bet him last week at 50 in a shit field. I'm going back this week, 120 in a shit field. So that's it for me. It's a lot of bodies, but trust me, I'm still in the bottom, low, mid end of exposure on my scale here. But that's it. I got a lot. Could add one. Could also say I'm done. Bye.
Most of the exposures on out in Bedminster. Yeah, my last one, I only have 5 that I've actually bet, and the the last one was another one where it's just like, hey, his number sucks. And then I looked at another book, like, oh, I was just looking at the wrong book. Where if that's what you're going to charge, I don't know how you're going to take any bets on Kevin Streelman, but 115-1, and he played well enough at the Barracuda for me to say this is a guy who can probably compete in a field like this at 100-1 or better. Kevin Streelman made the card.
I don't mind Callum Tarrant either. People were so excited about him last week. It was such a bad weekend. Still seeing 130-1. I honestly think that could be for all the people that took him last week, I would encourage you go back to that. His big picture, he played pretty well. There. That's the last thing I got to say on PGA. Ryan, your bombs.
He played with David Skins in the team event. No, in the team event down in Louisiana. So it just said Taryn Skins, and I would send that to producer Dan, and I made a rabbi joke with him. He thought was not going to be a great tweet, but perfectly acceptable as a DM. So that's my Callum Tarrant story. But I do like him. He's again another guy who's shortlisted. I'm going to take it pretty easy on outrights the next 2 weeks. It's going to be mostly matchups, although full tournament matchups, I think last week only 2 and 3. I made up with it with the daily stuff, and then the rain and drinking got to me. I didn't bet a lot over the weekend, so slowly pissing it away back. I need to stop that and a stopgap here. I need a stopgap weekend for sure. So I'll be looking for some. I'll be looking for some winners out of some positional bets as well.
My only bomb is I took Goddard up as well. I think 100 is actually. It's hard to say when maybe his fair number should be in the 60s. I just think 100 is a really bad number on this kid. I took a small piece of the Chesson Hadley thing as well. A couple other guys I don't think I'm going to add, but they're interesting to me. Grayson Sigg is playing pretty well and fits.
Jason Sigg, if you watch CBS's Saturday about 12 times, you think after the second time Finch called him Jason, they'd have fixed it, but nope.
Yeah, Jason Sigg, James Hahn,
135-1. I'll bet him. Grayson Sigg. I watched because he got on TV. I kind of liked him, and going back and looking at the stats, he was one of the bombs that just was below my cut line. But I found a 135. I'll play that.
Yeah, he's interesting to me. James Hahn playing pretty well. Had a nice Sunday finish there, and. I don't know. Kurt Kitayama feels like a bomb and putt. I don't know. I didn't make the play, but he's interesting to me. Maybe
he's hardcore. Someone made the case to me that he just plays well in windy, harder events. We don't
see him enough stateside, and I don't grind DP World Tour enough.
But I don't mind that. He seems like a guy that can just pin stock it and make you feel like a genius on your 100-1.
Yeah, because he can definitely bomb it. So. All right, Geoff, floor is yours. Bedminster, before we have to wrap up.
I got 2 bets. I bet Patrick Reed at 18-1, just a normal 18-1 bet. We're going to ride Patrick Reed until he wins on Live. And I've made I like this football game bet on Bryson this week. The guy T10 on the USO at the Open, he still needs to athlete entertainer it's a mindset thing. He's proving it to himself more than he's proving it to anybody else. There is, in my opinion, when Bryson is healthy, he can be the best player in the world at a golf course that is enormous. I'm in. I am in on Bryson, and I'm not angry. You guys might get this Live angry guy. I'm not angry. I'm just, not angry. I just enjoy the press conferences. What do you want from me? The Henrik Stenson one will be good. You're allowed to Live and still make fun of how Brooks Koepka's conducted himself. You're allowed.
We like the PGA and we make fun of them all the time too.
That's the thing. I've been making fun of the PGA forever. We don't let them off the hook. Weekends are filled with making fun of the PGA. I think people are hard. They live smart. They've picked on the events. They're polarizing the fields, but whatever. I don't care. There's enough for 2 golf events this week, and I got
I need to dig more into what the course is like. The preview series is light. I'm gonna need Ryan to go play Harvest Ridge Valley Pumpkin Patch, whatever the Chicago one is, and get
Which is
us
not close to Chicago, by the way.
Is it how much do you think it costs to go play that?
I actually think it's just a tad over 100. I looked. Yeah, I think it's like 1.25.
You should expense at the company. Go play that so we can have a course preview for that course, and then I'll try to get us media stuff for the media site for the Live. Is actually looks a lot easier than the PGA one.
Here's the problem. That's week 2. It's obviously Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This it is my wife's birthday. It's also Chargers Chiefs that night of week 2.
Oh wow!
It's
we have a watch party down in Chicago, Jeff.
Maybe
Chargers Chiefs.
Couch.
That'll be if the Chargers as long as they beat the Raiders week 1, that week 2 will be more of if they win, that's great. If they lose, it's fine because then their next 3 games are trust bad teams. It's Seattle, Jacksonville, the Texans. They lost to last year. Mm-hmm. The Browns week 5 pre-Deshaun. So if they come out of Raiders Chiefs 1-1, they're gonna be set up to have a really nice record. Started Chargers and in Chargers. I try not to do any of this before August, but I'm allowed to daydream soon, boys. Tell you that. I'm allowed to daydream soon. Yeah, I don't live. Do it up. Should be. They start Friday. So an extra day. Okay. DraftKings had some early numbers on this one. I actually pulled 14s on Bryson last week. So yeah, Bryson here, Bryson there. Please play well, Bryson.
I'll play a little Bryson. You know what? Maybe I'll do a Bryson Homa matchup.
I did a Bryson Homa while we were recording.
A Bryson Homa double. There are a lot of odds suddenly for Live, which is fine. I'm gonna look for hole in one Live. I don't want that. I just want some of these websites really overthink their how they do this. Oh, 9-1.
Even went wire to wire at Riviera. It was the first wire to wire in forever. And then Bet365 introduced the boost. And then for their first 2 months of boost, they were boosting guys to go wire to wire as if this is a thing that we're looking for.
Yeah, it's super easy, guys.
This is the market that we're looking for here as golf fans. No.
Yeah, not only pick the winner, but pick him to do something that happens once or twice a year. So
yeah.
Would be remiss before we leave, didn't mention the $1 promo. If nothing else, you get Ron's previews. He writes in-depth previews of the course every week that are up on the premium site. That's a quarter to read it. You put the quarter in the machine, read the preview, get a lot of information about the course, the history of the course, and he does a very nice little strokes gained analysis saying here's what's mattered in the past, here's what I think matters going forward. So that stuff's great. betspurtsgolf.com. And with that, calling it a day. We'll be back next week. Check it out. Me and Clint Calhoun talking DFS 10 p.m. tonight. He's a semifinalist in the Fantasy Golf World Championships. I'm sure he'll mention that ad nauseum tonight. But we will go over the DFS card tonight. So for me and Geoff, and even for Ryan, we hope you have a good Rocket Mortgage putting contest week. We'll see you next week.